Good morning. Okay, this is essentially the third time I've tried making a video in the morning this week. Ended up making one on Tuesday. Ended up being very emotional about a subject that is important to me. And at the end of it, I reviewed my videos before I post them. And I'm like, no, I should not post this. This is halfway to just ranting and raving. And then, I tried making one yesterday. I tried toning it down a bit. And I did, successfully. However, in the end, I ended up still ranting a bit in it. And I had at least one serious logical flaw. And I was just like, no, we're not going to post that. Good idea. I sat down and I thought through what would I want to talk about that maybe might help move us forward in some way. Okay, because that really is sort of the crux of what I want these videos to be, is how can we either identify a problem that we can solve, or what's a solution that's out there and we're just either not talking about it enough, or maybe it's we're not really sure if it really fits or whatever. So I decided, no, I won't post that one. And this morning I thought about it. I went, third time's a charm. And honestly, 2 points make a line, 3 points can make a curve. Maybe I can, continue to bring this curve down a bit and not be emotional, because in the end, I don't want to talk about it in the same way. But it's the same sort of idea. And that is the concept of grace/forgiveness. Now, I happen to be Jewish. The word grace, I don't know, I think it's awkward kind of for a lot of us, especially those of us who live in very Christian areas or interact with Christian groups on a regular basis, because they love to use that word all the time. And honestly, I think it makes a lot of us a bit uncomfortable. But it is, I think, the right word for this idea that I want to try to communicate. People are going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong. And that's certainly something that I have occasionally struggled with, continue to struggle with. But people are going to be wrong. People in power are going to be wrong. Politicians will be wrong. Politicians will also be right. And I think that in our society, it has become so easy for us to sort of demonize that other. If you're a Democrat, you're going to demonize the Republicans. If you're a Republican, you're going to demonize the Democrats. If you are third party, you just sort of throw your hands up and you go, you're both idiots. And then it kind of devolves from there. But the thing is, every politician has things that they did right and things that they did wrong. I apologize for the sun. Mind you, can't stop it. Wouldn't turn it off if I could. But my lighting, I may have to adjust how I do my lighting or something. I don't know. I did get out a little earlier this morning, so maybe the sun's just not in the spot I'm used to. But there are things that Governor Polis, I live here in Colorado, our governor's Governor Polis. He's a Democrat. He's married. His husband sounds like a really nice guy, who it would be interesting to meet them. I don't know that I completely agree with them politically, but I at least sort of lean that way. There are things Polis has done I approve of, and there are things Polis has done I don't approve of. But there's more things that I either do or don't approve of that the Colorado State Legislature has done. It is too easy to point fingers at the governor or the president. In the end, They're the heads of their respective executive branches. They don't generally write laws. They do get a certain amount of executive order element. But in the end, they're not writing laws. They're choosing how they want to execute a law. Potentially writing in the margins quite a bit. But, that being said, it is the state legislature, it is Congress. They're the ones actually making all these laws. They're the ones people should really be angry at. Oh, are you angry at a plastic bag ban that the governor signed? Yeah, the governor signed. He didn't come up with it on his own. It was written and approved by the Colorado State Legislature. So be angry at them collectively for having passed it. Maybe say, hey, you know what? Can we raise the minimum requirement to pass a law from just simple majority to 60% or 65% or 70%? Because honestly, if you can't get enough of us to agree, it really makes sense because of facts and logic, then should it be passed as a law? And by doing that, it almost forces a certain amount of bipartisanship to get any law passed. Now, I think what we would also find is that then they will just start trading favors. Oh, I'll pass on this law if you pass on my law. And I'm not saying that won't happen, because it probably will, but at least we might get more done than we are now, where it's very much, oh, that's a Democrat idea. I can't possibly sign off on that, because if I signed off on that, I'd lose re-election in my seat, and I'd have to change districts or something. I don't know. But I think that the person in front of me doesn't know how to drive. They didn't even clear their back window. Technically, they can get a ticket for that. Technically, you're supposed to clear your back window before you drive of any snow or any other obstruction, strictly speaking. But they're not driving otherwise unsafely and just a little aggressive on the braking, which kind of makes sense in some ways. You know, they probably want to keep a good distance. Although I think their front window is fine. It's their back window that's the problem. But nonetheless, I digress. So let's get back to where we were. Let's raise, what is necessary to pass, especially at a state or even national legislature. I have a friend of mine, Keith. He's conservative, but he's in no way a Republican. Refuses to associate with the Republican Party, but considers himself politically conservative. Has no problem with who I am, and he's a great guy. He's great. I have a huge amount of respect for him. He is smart. He is educated. He's smart and he's educated. He's got both. He's got that college degree that I just do not have, and that experience of academia a little bit. But he can also reason and logic out his opinions, and he'll listen to your logic. I'm not going to hit him. Oh my goodness. Admittedly, I have mindset too. Very aggressive when it comes to telling me you might potentially possibly someday hit this person. Don't worry if you hear the beeps on my car. I promise. It's all fine. But he and I talked, and at one point he said the best thing, Congress is at its best when each party controls a different part of Congress. If one party controls the House and the other party controls the Senate, that's great. Because to his perspective, no laws will get passed because they're going to be at odds. The Senate won't approve of whatever House bill. The House won't set up a bill for the Senate because they can't agree on it, or they think it's a horrible idea and they won't let it pass it into the floor. And that was his perspective. And he's a more libertarian-ish conservative from my view, in that small government's better. And I'm like, well, sometimes we need the government to solve things for the common good, because if you have private entities doing it, they have no reason whatsoever to benefit people as a whole, but instead just their owners. And if it's something that is mandatory, then, or is effectively mandatory through circumstance, then yes, I kind of think the government should be the one that is providing that. The government might recontract it back out, that's fine, but the government has rules that apply to it that do not apply to private industry. As a company, I can say, I don't want to run your political campaign, or I don't want to send emails on your behalf, or whatever the case may be. And I'm allowed to do that as a private entity. Now, I can't do it for protected classes requirements, no. But your political affiliation, I absolutely can. I can say, I don't like you because of your political affiliation. I don't want to do business. And private industry can do that. Government cannot. Private industry can say, oh, you're not rich enough. Government cannot. But it really, in the end, can't. It has to justify those kinds of things to the courts, who generally don't like those kinds of restrictions, because the government is supposed to represent the people. So my mantra is usually, expect more out of your government. Yeah, trim the fat, sure. But to me, that's part of expecting more out of your government. Expecting efficiency. Expecting, very little waste. That being said, I don't have a problem paying taxes. I really don't have a problem paying taxes. I grew up dirt poor. I lived off of government assistance when I was a kid. My whole family did. I'm more than happy to pay into those government programs now. Which makes me a little too liberal for pretty much any conservative, who are all generally, taxes are bad. On the other hand, I think there is government waste, and I think some of our government is a waste. But that's really mostly elected politicians. So, it's sort of frustrating. I still want better out of my government. I want better out of my elected officials. I also want better out of the appointed officials and the government workers who are just out there doing their job. But part of that expecting better is also expecting them to serve all people and not just people who are rich or know about a certain program or qualify because they're in this one super special district some politician created. I'm generally a proponent of something like a fair tax or a flat tax. If we had something that was a flat tax, it would have to be a percentage, and the entire tax code must fit on one 8.5 by 14 sheet of paper, double-sided, 14-point font, single-spaced, and that is it. The entire thing, the entire tax code, printed on that, and then you can put your percentage on that. The fair tax is going to require probably a little bit more explanation, so maybe a few more pages. Probably not more than 20. Keep it simple. It should be simple enough that somebody like me can just do their taxes. I used to do my own taxes. 1040 EZs and then 1040 As for a year or two. Actually, I think I was like in the last 2 years that 1040A was even a thing, because I think it went away the same year I had to move up to the full 1040. And I did that for like, I don't know, a few years. And then it got all complicated enough with having shares in a company and all of that I was like, I kind of have to go through it. I cannot do it all on my own. There's just too many darn forms and calculations and definitions that are, I don't know where they are. I can't do my own taxes, and I should be able to. Something like a flat tax or a fair tax would be doable. It would be, how much money did you make from all sources? Cool. You have to pay X percentage of that. How much of that money did you make in a foreign country with whom we have a tax treaty? Okay, how much in taxes did you pay on that? If it was less than our percentage, you still owe some of us some. If it was more than what you would owe us, well, then you paid it to them. You made it there, you paid taxes there, we're good. Don't worry about it. Which is, by the way, how most countries do that kind of thing. Or they just say, oh, you made the money in another country? Well, then you don't, and you pay taxes there? Well, then you don't have to pay taxes at all here. I'm like, yeah, no, if our taxes are higher somehow, which is rare, but if our taxes are higher somehow, then you probably should have to pay us the difference. I'm fine with that. Again, tax code, 1 page, double-sided, that's it. I should be able to just print it off, go through, and like line through all the things as I've done them. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Okay, cool. Theoretically, I've done my taxes. Here's my dollar amount that I owe in total. Here's how much I paid. Cool. Because then, I mean, imagine how easy payroll would be. Well, for taxes at least. You know, no, okay, how many exemptions do you have? How many kids? How many this and that and whatever? And okay, cool. Well, then we're going to calculate it at approximately this amount. I don't know why, but here in Colorado, neither company that I've worked for in the last 15 years has been able to calculate my federal and state stuff correctly at all. I always owe one and get money back from the other. And until the last few years, they were within a couple $100 of each other. It's only recently that's changed. But simplify the tax code, make it easier for people. That would be a great fix. And then the rich are paying their fair share because there's no more loopholes for them to get out. Unless you count having kids as loopholes, and that's assuming that survives in the tax brackets, which probably should to a degree, but only so much. Sorry, having a couple kids, good, helps keep our society running. Having 5 kids, okay, that's a bit much. Probably should, you know, learn how to not, you know, have kids. I'm not going to give you guys a biology lesson, but, you know, maybe learn how to not have kids. 10 kids? No, you're choosing to do that intentionally. Very much so. Stop. And no, we shouldn't be giving you as much assistance as somebody who's getting 2 or 3 kids per kid. You're choosing to do that. I hope you're rich because, yeah, you should be paying. Because you're having 10 kids. I really don't care if it's your religion or not. Government doesn't care about your religion. Government cares about numbers. You know, a government should not care about, oh, well, my religion says I just have to keep having kids every time I have sex with my wife. Well, that's your problem then. That's your problem. That's on you. That's not on the rest of us as the people. But, hey, I just lost my job. I can't get another one in this economy. I need help. Okay, cool. Well, we have some really simple housing. It is plain as, like, no, it is not fancy. I mean, it's almost, like, I almost imagine that Soviet-style housing or the old military-style housing, like what they used to have on, like, Fitz and Lowry and all. It's boring. It's utilitarian. It is not wonderful to live in, but it's wonderful to be alive. And therefore, you're there because then you have shelter. You have a place from which to, you know, rebuild your life. And yeah, government should be helping you rebuild your life to go back to being a healthy, contributing citizen. Just like how when you get out of prison, they don't just dump you at the gate and they're like, okay, cool, congratulations. It's a continuous lane, lady. It's a continuous lane. You just keep driving. Okay? Just keep moving. It's a continuous lane. There's a line, there's a sign. This intersection bugs me all the time. Because people don't seem to understand what a continuous lane is, and it frustrates me so much. And Greenwood Village is like, oh, yeah, no, we're not going to do anything. But anyways, both of the exits right around my work have this exact same problem that really they don't enforce the traffic laws around it. They don't affect, they do not enforce, that was the word I was actually trying to say, sorry. They don't enforce the continuous lane, you know, that's not a merge lane, it's a continuous lane. They don't enforce the lights, to be honest. But anyways, kind of going back to my original topic, because I just parked and I want to go get breakfast. And I have rambled. I started off talking about like grace and being able to understand our politicians are going to make mistakes, or they're going to vote for things we don't like. And in some ways that's good. We should let them know what we feel. But at the same time, Okay, cool. That's already happened. How do we move forward from here? And admittedly, I did sort of get off on a bit of a tangent around expecting more out of your government, which in some ways they are connected, they are related. I want people to, hold your government officials accountable, especially your elected ones, because that's really where you have the most power to affect a change. Hold your elected officials accountable, let them know what you're thinking, and at the same time, we don't have to wait for the elected politicians to say, oh, we should do X, Y, Z. If you think fair tax or flat tax or whatever is a great idea, talk to your elected officials about it. Let them know. And say, hey, what can I do to help push this forward? And what would be awesome is if you're talking to an elected official who's basically on the other side of the other party from you. If you're a Democrat, you're talking to a Republican, and you could be like, hey, yeah, I'm a Democrat. This is what I believe. But I also think that X is a good solution to a problem. This is the problem as I see it. I think this is a better solution, or the best solution that I see. Talk to them. Actually, don't just go ahead and write them a letter, sure. But in that letter, say, I would love to talk to you for even 5 minutes about why I think XYZ is the solution for the homeless crisis, tax evasion, migration, in or out, property taxes, government waste, cars running red lights, those pesky bicyclists on the road. By the way, I am in the warmer weather, one of them. And definitely my opinion changed when I became one. And I went, oh, wow. I get this a little bit better now. And at the same time, I still understand where drivers are coming from when they're frustrated, because there are really bad bicyclists, but there's also a lot of really bad drivers. And there's bad politicians. There are corrupt politicians. And there's honestly a lot of politicians where they're trying, whether it's their best or not, I don't know, but they're definitely trying to do what they think is right, what they think they were elected to do. It's our job, it's our duty to make sure that they know what we as people want, because in the end, they're voting on our behalf. This is what did we call it? Because there's a correct political term for it. This is not a democracy. It is a representative. It's either representative. It can be a representative. It's a republic, but it's also a representative democracy. I can't remember the right terms, because honestly, it has been so long since I've taken any kind of poli-sci class, or civics, or U.S. history. But in the end, it is not a direct democracy. We do not get to vote on every single tiny little thing. And in some ways, that's good, because while I might be educated on certain things, I'm definitely not educated on all these others. And there's a lot of people who just have no interest whatsoever in learning more about things. Which means that the politicians either have to be really smart people, or they have to surround themselves with smart people. I'm really kind of hoping more on the latter. People who are themselves think that they're smart, and yes, I'm one of them. If they don't realize that you can be smart at one thing but not in everything, they're going to start to think, oh, I'm smart in everything. And that ego gets away from them, and the next thing you know, they're making decisions that actually aren't sound. But you might be an expert in finance. Cool. So what could you do to recommend to the government, hey, we should be doing X, Y, or Z thing, so that people can audit the government's finances, or question why we're spending so much on program B, or whatever. This guy parking. Okay, cool. I was gonna say he's parking right next to me, and he's wicked close, but no, he's not. He's good. Anyways, I'm gonna leave all that with you guys. I guess I'll combine those two ideas by saying, let's hold our government and our government officials accountable, but at the same time, give them grace to have made mistakes. Be, maybe somebody that we wouldn't necessarily agree with, and yet at the same time, what can we do to work with them to make it better for not just us, but for everyone here? I think that's the best way I have to tie all that together. So, you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.